Which one? Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today are Donyetta Gilmer, Sasandra Cardwell, and Chelsee, and I'm not even going to attempt her last name. I'm just going to be honest with you, Paige. I'm going to Chelsee say it for me.
Chelsee Koschelski.
Koschelski. So, there you go. And these ladies are here to talk about a serious subject. They're here to talk about domestic violence. Ladies, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
October's Domestic Violence Month, is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with just the big question. What is domestic violence?
Well, domestic violence is a pattern of coercive behavior within an intimate partner relationship. And it can be physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. It can be a number of things.
So it's really a broad topic. I think a lot of times people just think of the traditional husband abusing wife.
Right.
And I know that happens, but who can be a victim of domestic violence?
Anyone can. Domestic violence will reach anyone in our communities, rich, poor, any race, any gender, from all the way from adults to teenage.
So it's really a broad spectrum of folks.
It is, yes.
And I just happen to be reading a book right now where the abuser is gaslighting his victim. Can you tell me what gaslighting is and how it can be recognized?
Gaslighting is it's a form of emotional abuse. It is a way of behaving or making the victim feel as if they are wrong. There's a lot of power and control in telling the victim that their emotions aren't justified. That a lot of times there's a bunch of lies about things that have happened, or stories that help manipulate that victim into questioning themselves and their reality and how they ultimately feel about themselves. So there's a big control factor into that, but it's usually used a lot in emotional abuse situations.
And automatically I think we think about the physical abuse. But it's more than physical abuse when we're talking about domestic violence, right?
Yes.
It is. And a lot of our victims that we have, you can see a lot of TBI, a lot of traumatic brain injury, where the abuser will hit in the back of the head, do things so you won't see on the outer surface, but it's the inner surface of the bruises.
But emotional, mental abuse is just as bad as the physical abuse. You look at all of those things.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think because Donyetta and Sasandra, you work with a shelter home. Tell us just a little bit about the shelter home and how you serve the community.
We cater to men, women, and children. And then we only take IPV, which is intimate partner violence. I am the program director, so I oversee all the programs. So when they come into the shelter home, we try to give them a program to follow, how to get them back into society, to empower them and give them the tools and the resources to combat domestic violence. And so when they get out of the shelter home, hopefully, they are ready to start new relationships, but they also able to understand what the red flags look like and how to not get back into those type of relationships, whether it be intimate partner or with family and friends.
And Sasandra, you are I didn't catch your title. I know it's some type of advocate.
I'm a victim advocate.
You're the victim advocate, and you deal with the day-to-day, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I'm just going to say this. You're kind of the hand holder, the cheerleader, the pusher, the
All in one.
all-in-one.
But my primary job is to come up with that plan, and once we have the plan, let's get the tools to make that plan, become available. Whether it's getting driver's license, birth certificates, it might be something as small as getting clothes for them to wear. And we do help them with job interviews, help them get employment, whatever their plan is. I'm to assist them in doing it.
Okay, so really to help people get back on their feet.
Yes, ma'am. We like to say from cocoon to butterfly.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, that really is beautiful. I was going to ask something just about the shelter home in general. You do have beds for people who need them. Tell us about kind of the residential side of the shelter home.
Explain to me a little bit.
I mean, like, I know you have beds and people can come there and stay for a period of time. Tell us about that piece of it.
Okay, so if you find yourself in a crisis, we do have a crisis line that they can call or call the shelter home, and we will assess them over the phone. And once they identify as intimate partner violence, we will get them into the shelter, and then we will get them a bed. Now, once you get in, you may just need to rest or get something to eat. So we look at everybody as an individual. So we just base it upon themselves and what they need. Once they are in, we provide toiletry, we provide shampoo, everything that they need. We provide for the shelter home through donations or funds. So once they're in there, we're working this program. We're trying to get them where they need to be. And we also work with community partners like DSS, RHA, the hospital, to make sure whatever other services that they need to attend to, that we adhere to that as well.
And Chelsee, as working for DSS, what is your role in this partnership?
At DSS, we try to be vigilant on all levels. We have clients who come in for Medicaid services, and we try to stack the walls and the elevator and things with information regarding domestic violence and how to contact the shelter home or the hotline. Of course, we also work closely with families in child welfare. We see a lot of domestic violence involved in these families, and a lot of times the children are very entwined into the situation, if not victims themselves. The emotional toll on the entire family dynamic, we definitely do some outreach. Immediately we refer to the shelter home. I know they probably know who we are by voice now on the phone, but we try to get them hooked up with as many support group services that we can, because these women do a wonderful job of establishing those relationships and helping, whether it be victim advocacy in the community, in the court system, those type things, finding jobs, helping with mental health counseling, which is vital to children especially that experience or witness the abuse themselves. So I really, we try to be the roots in that support with as many avenues as we can use, and they kind of come to us, hey, can you help us, we're trying to find a job in this city, or really a partnership with the goals in mind to help that person be a strong individual that doesn't rely on their abuser.
Okay, so you mentioned a helpline. What is that number, and is that the best way for people to get help who may be in I'm going to try to get this,
Intimate partner violence.
intimate partner
Violence.
violence?
Because those are the only type of DV, domestic violence, that we take at the shelter.
Okay, so how can people get help?
Well, they can call local shelters like ours in Caldwell County. They can call the national hotline, and that is 1-800-799-7233.
Now you need to give them a crisis line number.
Your turn.
Well, I don't know it offhand.
That's okay. You
But
give
they
it to us
can
and we'll put it on the
dial the
screen.
shelter home directly at 828-758-0888. You have the crisis line number.
The national number is 1-800-799-SAFE. So that's 1-800-799-7233.
So they can do that. They can call the shelter home.
And they can also go on our website, the Shelter Home of Caldwell County, or they can also hit us up through Facebook. And a lot of ladies are like, text a message, and then we will call them back or email them back. So there's a lot of different revenues that they can reach out, because when you do reach out, you want to make sure that it's safe to call. And even on the hotlines, like it'll tell you, if you go on the website, it'll be like, are you safe to call this number? And if not, it'll let you hang up, and where you can like erase that call and stuff.
That's very good. So how can family members and friends help somebody who may be in a domestic violence situation?
Listen and support. I will advise, please don't ask that victim to leave. Ask them to make sure that it is safe for them to leave. A lot of times where families are not used to what's going on or maybe not understand domestic violence, it is hard on families. It's hard to watch a loved one go through domestic violence. But the more and more you talk down about the abuser or tell them just to go in and leave, you are making that victim feel like they have no one else. Because a lot of times the abuser will isolate and convince them, gaslight them to make them feel like that family don't care about them. So a lot of times that victim feels alone, and then like if she talks about it, first of all, you're embarrassed. And first of all, you don't even understand what you're going through. So all I just say is just support. Just keep on supporting, and when they're ready, they will leave.
I think that's probably the best. I mean, you just said that so well. I'm just kind of overwhelmed
Right.
here because I do think people, they have to make up their mind to take that step.
Oh, yes.
Right.
They do. You love this person. And it's like you tell any one of us that you have to stop loving who you're with. You can't just turn it off. And then a lot of times when we talk about the victims are still talking to the abuser, well, they've had a long relationship with these people, with their abuser. So it isn't a switch that they can just turn off and stop loving them. We just want to teach them what healthy love looks like and unlearn that unhealthy coping mechanism.
And I think another important thing is the safety plan. If they do decide to get out of the situation, do it safely.
It can be life or death.
I'm sure I'm going to say most cases,
Right.
it can be life or
Yes.
death.
Yes.
How can people help the shelter home? If they want to support your mission, your work, how can they do that?
Well, we take donations, we take volunteers, but I always say word of mouth. Just talk about domestic violence. Have those uncomfortable conversations, not even with adults, have them with youth. We do a program where we work with youth about teen date violence. Let's talk about it. Let's stop pretending that it doesn't happen in our communities, like it just happens over there and it's not going to happen here, because any one of us can find ourselves in those situations. So self-awareness, learn red flags, learn what goes on inside of our homes, who that person is dating. Communication for me would be. What about you?
I think just inviting us into the community, into the churches and other avenues so we can educate. I think educating people can solve a lot of our problems in the community.
You mentioned red flags. Can you just, I know that they're probably different in every situation, but are there some primary examples of what those red flags might be?
Well, isolation, where you can have a lady or a male that can be very friendly, very intact with their family, start dating someone, and that abuser may move them to a whole different city and say that it's us, me and you, baby. And so we move away and we lose contact. And so then once I start isolating you, I can start making you feel bad about yourself. Someone that usually be well kept, groomed, that start becoming ungroomed, just crying a lot, hidden bruises. It can be really hot outside and they can still have on a long sweater, or you ask them what happened. So they're playing a lot of cover-ups. So there are tons of red flags, but I think everybody that goes through as a victim will have their own red flags. It's just really understanding the person that's in front of you, understanding that victim, just seeing that behavior change. When we talk about youth, grades could be dropping. They could be used to playing a sport. They won't play that sport no more because maybe that boyfriend or girlfriend don't want them to play. Someone wanting to check your cell phone all the time, so you're not allowed to have a cell phone. Or going to the grocery store, you know that you have a time limit when you're supposed to be back. So there's a lot of red flags. Like I said, it's just understanding that person and what changes in their behavior and patterns.
Chelsee, you you have indicated you have a good relationship, obviously, with the shelter home. And when you have folks come into DSS for whatever service they may be applying for, is that when you start picking up on maybe there's a bigger problem here?
We do. A lot of our work is close with these families, and a lot of our clients are primarily women. When they're coming in for, Medicaid, food stamps even, a lot of times they will start to speak of, members of their household, or, even little comments like, we need to get home, we need to get home. And as we talk to them a little bit more, they do start to portray the idea that they are dependent. Their decisions can't be solid. They have to ask someone else first. A little bit closer work with our families and child welfare whenever we are working, whether it be in foster care or in case management. We spend a lot of time with these children, with these women, and even the entire household. And in speaking to the different parties, a lot of times we can start to see the different dynamics, and the children start to say certain things that are those red flags immediately for us. And we start to talk with them separately. A lot of times when there is fear present, we try to, whether it be the female, the abuser, or the male, we try to talk with them separately, give them the options. If you need the help, if you need us to move you out of your home, you have the chance, we'll take you right now, whether it be just verbal support, or if it is a situation where we fear for the safety of a child, or even the mother and the child in any situation, we will contact law enforcement. That is a very last resort, because we do understand as well that we could easily put these children and women into more dangerous situations. There's a lot of splitting up and going back, and splitting up and going back. The control factor is so strong. We have to have that patience. We have to keep trying, because it isn't a one time, I'm going to get the help and I'm going to leave. It is a pattern. It's a psyche that has to be broken, and for the children as well. Their perceptions of what normal, of what healthy, and what love is in general is very altered, and it does take quite a while with families as a whole, and children individually, and mothers individually, to break that cycle, to stray away from that. So we really try to, be that foundation of resources, and then we work with the shelter home to give us the direction to try to help. So it is very, very coordinated between our agency and the shelter home.
I'm going to ask, if you could say one thing to someone who is being abused, and you get this opportunity, I'm sure, in your day-to-day, but what's the one message that you try to get out to people? That's for all three of you.
Well, for me, I would like to say to the women that you are worthy. You are worthy to be loved, and love is not violence. Love is not pain.
God. One thing.
Just one. Well, if you got 10, that's okay too, but
Only you know when it's time to leave. Don't feel like you have to be forced or pressured. Make sure when you leave that you are safe and you have a plan.
Chelsee, do you have something?
I think we try to communicate as much as we can to these families that it's not going to be easy. It's not as simple as, why don't you just leave? There's way more involved, and it's not going to be an overnight type thing. For some families, we will get them out of there right then, but we don't expect that. We don't expect perfection, or everything to automatically, magically just be better. We want them to know that we understand that.
Anything we've forgotten to mention today? There's so much I could sit here and ask. You just need to ask me and ask you, but I want just anything else that we need to talk about to add to our conversation?
I would like to say it takes a woman or a victim 8 to 10 times before they actually leave the relationship. So you can imagine a woman may leave 1, 2, 3, 4, then go back. So it is a cycle that everybody talks about. It is a cycle of break-in, which is not always easy. A lot of women sometimes come in and they're like, well, it's going to get better. I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to go back home. Well, when they do leave the shelter, we open our arms when they come back again. If they leave, they come back again. So want to stress, even if you do decide to go back to your victim, to your abuser, if you're a victim, still safety plan. Have an exit, have a plan, and just in case that abuse happens back again. No one knows, and when they come in, we always say, we don't know your abuser. You know him better than what we do. So you help us make that plan for you. Whether you in that house with the abuser or you in that shelter, always make a safety plan for you and your children.
Anything?
No.
Well, I think that's a really good note. I mean, it is a tough topic to talk about, but I do feel like there's more people out there who are being abused than we realize.
Yes.
And awareness is key. So, as our viewers, if you are a member of a church, a civic club, reach out to the shelter home about a program. For your youth group, your adults, any group really. So thank y'all for being here, and thank you for talking about what is a very important subject.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.